This video is in collaboration with Sweet Tree Productions. I've linked their awesome YouTube channel below. Definitely check them out. Their channel is amazing, full of great content for all your production needs. Click the link below, contact them for great pricing on all sorts of production gear. Personally recommend them. They're fantastic. So in this video, wing presets are finally available on my website. A few years too late, but they're finally here. Thanks to Sweet Tree. So in this video, I'm actually gonna swap them. So I have filmed two full videos. This is obviously gonna be a long one, so get your coffee and everything and sit back. So in this video, we are going to build a all-out mix. So this is one where I'm going to use all the different plug-in effects. I'm going to do different processing tricks on the wing to get a mix that sounds like this. The elders, creatures bow, giving praise to him and him. All live band, no pre-recorded tracks. That is 100% raw, in the moment, worship happening. So we're going to fix problems. We're going to enhance things. It's going to be good. So, and next week, you'll hear in this video, I refer to a previous video, but I actually want to put this one out first. So next week, we're going to build a very basic mix with minimal processing. I'm going to show you how you can very simply get a great sound on the wing and you don't have to go all out or make things complicated. You can actually do it very simply, but this one we're going to have fun and really kind of go all out. Presets, all of that in the description. Let's go. So now I want to show you how I actually build a mix in the real world using the different plugins available. These are just my preferences. These are the ones that I typically go for. I'm not saying that they're better or worse than others. I'm saying these are what I use. And we'll also cover some more advanced techniques as well, so you can see how we really start getting that extra 5 to 10% on a mix. So some of those settings that I used in the other video, I'll be undoing in this just in real time. I'll really be building this off the back of the mix in our previous video where we used only the default plugins. So again, a quick overview. We're using a drum DCA, a band DCA, and a vocal DCA, and those are controlling our drum, band, and vocal buses. So each of those buses are controlling things that you would assume based off of that. It's just a separate, I kind of, in my view, I just treat them as little miniature faders that I can then process as well before sending out to the main. So as far as this mix goes, each source is going to, it's a bus first, that is then also being controlled by a DCA if I need a little bit of extra control over just the master volume, keeping my faders even, stuff like that. And then the same goes for the effects. So I have drum verb that is controlling my drum reverb and my gated reverb. Auxiliary is controlling an aux verb and a shimmer verb. Vocal is just controlling a single vocal reverb. And the vocal delay is, or vocal DCA delay is controlling just the delay bus. So hope that makes sense. And then all of that is going out of a single master output and straight to our video world. So first, in case you didn't see it, here's a quick view of the mix we built in the previous video using only the default plugins. So that is built only using the default gate, EQ, and compressor, and then a single reverb for drums, a single reverb for some instruments, and a single reverb for the vocals. So now let's expand on that and really kind of dig into more of what this board can do. So first, we'll just start at the beginning. Let's mute all of this, and we're going to start on our kick in mic and listen to that. Okay, so I'm going to leave the gate as it is, but one thing I like to do is let's jump over and use our Neve EQ here. So on this EQ, I like to set this where the mid-range is down around 350, and then the mid-gain, we're going to go crazy with it. So watch this. All right, here's with a flat EQ. Okay, so for that EQ, I love cranking this one and kind of going crazy with this. Even 84, it's this Neve knockoff here. I really like going crazy. So we have our low frequency at 60. Gain is up a lot. You know, you don't get a number on this, but a good bit. And then our mid gain at 350 hertz is basically all the way out. And then our high frequency up at 16 is pretty cranked as well. So I really like that sound. This high Q there, I believe, yeah, it actually knocks it down a little farther if it's on. So let's just see what that does. I actually like it with it on, so we're going to go there. All right, so I like that sound. It's super scooped, really like aggressive sounding EQ. And now our compressor, I really like this, what is it? They call it BDX. It's a DBX 160 knockoff. So I really like this compressor a lot. It's really squishy sounding. I usually set it at 4-to-1, and we'll set our threshold from there. So let's see how this sounds. If you really crank down, I mean, it's just super aggressive sounding, this compressor. So a little bit goes a long way. Okay, so I'm a big fan of these two working together, this Neve and then the DBX, you know, the BDX, you know, they call it, this compressor. I'm a big fan of these two together. So now let's actually take this a step further. And I really like the Psycho bass on a kick and mic as well. So let's just let's toggle this on and off. It's the default settings right here. So to me, these three in combo, you know, minus the gate, that's just kind of is what it is. This EQ, this compressor, and then the Psycho bass, which actually I need to put this on our pre-insert. There we go. Need to move that right there so that we don't go changing stuff with our level. So needed to be there. Okay, so with those, I'm a big fan of that. This Psycho bass, we changed the gain, the bass gain where it's just at 0 dB, the crossover frequency at 50. So it really gets those just super sub lows, basically just air, but it's just that thing you feel. Left the intensity at the default setting. I love this kick sound. And you can see our compressor's barely doing anything. Okay, so for me, I'm happy with that. And a lot of times these days, candidly, with our kick out mic, I do that and that. I haven't used it in a while. It's there if you need it, but I feel like I get a lot out of this one mic, and then I'm not dealing with more bleed. I'm not dealing with more any phasing issues necessarily. I just get more out of it, and I'm happy with it. So we're going to actually skip our kick out mic and jump to snare. All right, I really like this preamp thing that they have in here that's essentially an SSL emulator, you know, for the preamp. Just adding some drive on it just adds a little bit more life, puts it a little bit more in your face. It's subtle. I don't worry about it on most things, and on snare, it's fun. So that's what I like to do. Okay, and so with this EQ, I actually really like when you can get away with it, this SSL EQ. Let's try it on this one and see if we can get our notches, kind of correct, because there is a little bit of specific ringing. So a lot of times the basic EQ is good to get those out, but let's see what we can get out of this one here. All right, so we're doing a cut. They're around, what is it? Around 300, maybe a little bit up from there. It's always a little harder to tell exactly what these are doing, but I have it on the most narrow Q, dropping out a few dB. It doesn't list exactly how many. Boosting a little bit of lows around 150, and then boosting some top end at around 8K. So we'll go with that for now. Jump to our compressor, and I'll go ahead and say again, I really like using this DBX compressor on here. So we'll see how it sounds in combination with that EQ and that preamp emulator. Let's hear that with the kick. All right, so now let's jump to our snare bottom. And I think the only thing I'm going to change here is actually the input. I'm going to add in the drive here, give it a little bit of gnarliness. Let's see what it sounds like. All right, just adds a little bit of, to it. I'm going to leave the EQ the same. Jump to our compressor. And yet again, let's go with this guy here. Get pretty aggressive with it. About 5 dB. All right, let's listen to those two together. All right, pretty happy with that so far. And for our toms, to be honest, because there's a lot of specific ringing, the gates are very specific, and we're just using the compressor for a little bit of taming, I actually will leave those the exact same. That's actually what I do on this board for the most part. I just use the kind of the default stuff and do a little surgery on them and then move on. That's typically the same, and the same for the overheads. You know, sometimes I will throw a different compressor. I will for this video, but a lot of times, candidly, I will just use the default stuff for toms and overheads. But for this one, let's actually jump to our overheads and do a little bit more. And one thing I do like is to use this thing here. Just a medium attack, medium release. Get a few dB of gain reduction there, and just let it be what it is. I don't really even worry about, you know, changing a lot of the stuff on this. It's just keeping them in line. All right, so let's listen to our dry drum signals all together. All right, so it's sounding pretty good so far. Now let's jump to our drum reverb. And on this one, this mix, I am using the gated reverb and my drum reverb. We're getting into the specific settings. Those are in the description below. And we're going to send snare and toms to the gated verb, snare, toms, and overheads to our drum reverb. I like to do that, just add some length and ambience to all of them. So let's hear what those sound like now. First, the drum reverb, and then the gated verb, and then we'll bring them together. It's up loud, of course, just so you can hear. Okay, and I like to balance those so that the gated verb really kind of fades into that drum verb. So if you notice, there is a 10 dB-ish difference between the two. So they are pretty wide apart, pretty far apart in level, but I don't want a ton of that super 80s explosion sound necessarily, but I do want the gated verb to add that big boom at the beginning and then fade into the drum reverb itself. So that's about how I level those off, and I just do that on the bus itself. And then, like we said earlier, now I control the overall level of that reverb. Imagine it as 1 with my DCA. Okay, so that is our drum sound so far. Now let's jump over to our drum bus and see what we can do here. So I really like on this board, on our compressor section, we have this bus compressor here. So they call it the Soul Bus Compressor. I really like it for drums. And so what I'll do is I'll set my ratio to 2:1, release a lot of times a little bit faster, and then attack we'll leave at 10 milliseconds and see what that sounds like. And now this is going to be compressing all of my drums. Now, one thing to do here is actually set this so that it's only being triggered by the high frequencies. And I'll set that, at around 100 so that the compressor will only be triggered, sorry, I can't speak, by the higher frequencies, because a lot of times the kick is carrying a lot more energy and can really start choking down the signal. So we want to not really compress so much off of those low frequencies, but we will by, the snare, maybe the toms and stuff like that. So I really like that setting being available on this board. So we will go with that and set our threshold. So with our attack fast, you can hear how much it's choking them down. All right, so we don't want this doing a whole lot of work. So what we're doing here is really our attack is set at 10 milliseconds and our release at whatever the 0.2 is, pretty fast. Ratio is only at 2-to-1, and really doing this where it's doing just a little bit of work. It's just kind of tightening everything together and pulling down some of those big peaks. We don't want to be doing a bunch of heavy lifting with this compressor. So we're going to leave it there. I'll add, 2 dB of makeup gain there just to bring the top and bottom a little closer together, but we'll go from there for now. And so on this EQ for our bus, I really like this Pultec EQ as an option. So on the Pultec, there is a trick that you can do where you can select a low frequency and then attenuate and boost that same frequency, and it causes this mid scoop to happen. And I like doing that on the bus here because it just adds a extra weight, an extra squishiness to the sound. I really like this. So let's turn this on and do some knob turning and see what it sounds like as a group. Okay, I'm a fan of that. And again, when we get into this bus, these bus mix settings, we're getting more subtle. We're not doing heavy lifting. I need to be clear with that. That a lot of times people think, oh, now this is going to be the game changer. Everything that we're doing, all the big heavy lifting happens first at the source, and then we do a little bit more on each channel, and then we get real subtle and think as a whole and as a group on the bus. If your mix isn't already great at the channel level, this won't fix it. This is just that extra 5-10% at most. So that's our drum sound. We may come back and change it, but for now, let's move on and go to bass. One thing on bass that I really like to do is actually use 2 compressors, each doing a little bit of work. So what I'll do is on this first section here, let's actually go through and rearrange these. So we'll EQ first, and then we'll have 2 compressors after that. So I'm going to set this as the LA2A first, and then our next one, we will go a little bit more aggressive with something. Let's see how this sounds first. Okay. I love on an LA2A when the bass is basically making the compressor hang out around 2 or 3 dB. I just like that sound. I think that it's really natural sounding. It's not overly choked or anything like that. So let's do that on this compressor, and now let's jump ahead and go for the distressor. We're gonna do this at the 2-to-1 ratio. All right, let's go with that. So our input we cranked up so that we're hitting a few dB off, 3-4 dB. Our attack is at 6 and release at 4. And then I brought down the output just to level match it a little bit so we're not going, too crazy, adding in a bunch of level there. All right, so let's hear that with the drums. All right, so that's a pretty solid level. It's not moving up and down a lot. That's kind of what we want to hang out with those drums and really be just a good foundation there. All right, so now I think that's okay for the moment. We're going to jump ahead to our electrics and see what we can do with those. Okay, so both of these I feel like need to be softened up a bit. This one sounds thin, but also can be harsh. It's a little bit in between. So let's go ahead and rearrange these inserts a little bit. I'm going to drag our gate section down. We're going to use the EQ as it is. We're not going to change that. It's just a cut at 2K and a cut at 500. For our compressor, let's actually make it do a little bit of work and go with, let's say, the LA2A and treat it the same as the bass. Let's make it knock off a few dB and see what that does to the signal. Okay, that's subtle. Let's jump to our gate section and actually use our dynamic EQ for the first time on this mix. So what I'm going to do is take the gain section there and only put about 4 dB on it with a wide Q. Jump that up to around 2-3K, somewhere in there. Ratio is only at 2:1. We'll drop our attack down to about 10. That's fine. Release, let's just start it at around 200. And go from there. We'll set the threshold so that this dynamic EQ is going to turn on, essentially, and pull down some of those frequencies whenever he really digs in. That's kind of where I'm shooting for. You can see with the threshold all the way down, it's essentially acting as an EQ. I want it to dance a bit. All right, so it actually makes it feel a little bit wimpier, but I think in the context of everything else, it'll help a bit. So we will see once we get everything else in the mix. So let's jump to Electric 2 now. I'm going to do basically the same thing, or at least set us up for the same thing on Electric 2. So we'll go, keep our same EQ, cutting it around 2.5-ish, and then around 300, a bit of a wider Q. Let's throw on the LA2A leveler and make that dance just a bit. You know what? I'm actually going to leave it there. That's all I'm going to do with that. I don't want to overdo anything too much, but I really like what that compressor's doing, just keeping those to a little bit more in line with one another. So now one thing we do have the option of is let's start bringing in some of our other effects. So one of them that I have set up, and I usually just have available to me, is the shimmer reverb. I don't know if I'll add it on both, but let's listen to these and see what they sound like. Let me unmute that. Let's listen to this shimmer verb and see what's going on. Okay, that can quickly get out of hand, but you may have noticed on this mix, there's a lot of playing going on. If you watch the other video, you may have already noticed this. There's a lot of playing, but a lot of this stuff is happening all in that same range, and we're missing out on some of that top-end shine on the mix. So with this, what I'm going to do is set these two electrics through this shimmer verb, but here, I'm down minus 10 dB, and we're going to be subtle with it. We're going to try to be careful. We don't want to overdo this one because it could kind of sound ridiculous if it's overdone. So we will leave that right there and let it just add a little bit more, movement up in that upper range. So now let's move on to our keys. All right, here's where we left off with our keys 1. Has the auxiliary verb 1. There's no EQ happening. Let's just see what this SSL does. And again, we covered this in the other video. The bit of distortion you're hearing, I think, came from the stage that day. It's not clipping anywhere in my chain. I believe it was happening on the interface that the musician was using. So again, sometimes you're dealt the hand. That's all you can do there. Can't take that away. So we're making the most of that. All in all, I think it sounds great. We're going to do a mid dip using this Pultec EQ at 300. I think that kind of tightens it up, gives it a bit of a scooped sound, adding in some color drive on that preamp emulator. And now let's have some fun and choose one of these different compressors. Let's even just audition a few and see what it sounds like. I like that. Let's see what the distressor sounds like. Kind of like that. So we'll go with that. We have our preamp emulator, our Pultec doing a mid dip at 300, and our distressor with the attack at basically 2 and release at 4, and on 4:1 ratio there. So that's doing a lot of kind of adding that smackiness into it. It's being fed into our auxiliary verb, and now let's also add in a bit of shimmer to see if we can add some shine on the top of this. All right, again, you have to be careful with that shimmer verb. It could sound absurd if it gets out of hand. So we'll call it there and move on to keys 2. And this one is just the pad, so we will actually just leave these settings as they are, and add in some shimmer. And you hear there where the movement on this one, because it itself is moving slowly between the notes, it doesn't sound all that great. So that we're actually going to leave the pad as it is. I'm not a fan of that. I don't think that this algorithm is even understanding that signal well. So we're going to move on. All right, so violin. Let's see how it does with the shimmer verb. We'll leave it for now. I'm We're going to use the LA2A. On the limit setting. We're going to leave it there for now. That's what we're going to do. See how that sounds in context. All right, feeling pretty good about it so far. So one thing, let's actually jump back to our snare bottom and try the air setting on the Mach EQ here. So I'm going to take our low cut and go up really high, but then on this EQ, I'm going to use the air band. Let's drop it at 10 and crank that air and see what happens. All right, that may be absurd. Let's hear it in context. All right, moving on. So now let's check out our vocals. So on these vocals, now we're going to have our vocal verb and our delay. So let's double check our delay is sending or receiving the correct stuff. All that's right. Okay. So now, as simple as this is, one of my favorite things this board has to offer is the de-esser on the channels. So I always go on my vocals first with this DBX de-esser. I take off the high frequencies only and usually end up having to crank this frequency knob up a little higher, but we'll see. I put this on every vocal channel immediately. Like, that's not a question. And as far as why I put the de-esser first, it's honestly, I just look at it as correcting the problem before it becomes a problem. If we have it later in the chain and we start boosting top end, then there's more de-essing that's needed. If it is de-essed on the front end just a little bit, subtly, so it still sounds natural, once we start bringing up other frequencies, those S's become less of a problem. So that's just how I do it. There isn't a right way to do it, in my opinion. It's just how I do it. So let's listen with that de-esser engaged.
The elders, creatures bow, giving praise to him and him alone. There's no one like the Lord, and worthy is the Lamb who was slain and seated on the throne. There's no one like the Lord.
Okay, so we will move on for now. I'm going to leave the EQs the same. I actually, a lot of times on vocals, because it's a lot of notching in live, I actually just use the stock default EQ. And what I do is then we'll go to town with these different compressors. First, I will use the PSE and LA2A combo. I do that first. I will set this, usually in the mid-20s, the depth of about 10 dB, and leave everything on default to start and see how it sounds. So just the lead vocal.
You are worthy. We crown you. You are worthy.
Make sure nothing's being cut off.
We crown you, Lord of all. And worthy is the Lamb who was slain and seated on the throne. There's no one like you, God.
And now we'll get a few dB of compression there.
The elders, creatures bow, giving praise to him and him alone. There's no one like the Lord. And worthy.
Okay, so then I'll just copy those settings as a starting point over to this vocal. She wasn't singing quite as loud. We'll set it in the minus, higher 20s a little bit. Depth right there, just to get it going. Okay. So now, where things start getting a little bit more interesting is let's jump into our effects rack. And what I like to do on vocals is I like to stack compressors. And one way you can do that is actually let's assign an effects slot to this vocal. Effects type, and we're going to go to the channel settings here where you have the option of more EQs or combo channels. And on this one, it is the vintage channel, I believe, that starts off with an 1176 and ends with another LA2A. And so what I'll do is I'll turn these on, the ratio on this one at 4:1, and then turn the LA2A on, just the stock setting. So now let's dial in so that this first compressor is doing a few dB of compression. This next one is doing a few dB. I like to set the attack up here around 11 o'clock and release all the way over at 7. And then we'll set where this third compressor is doing a few dB as well. So all of them are equally working. They're just taking care of what the other one missed. And it really causes a smooth, upfront, in-your-face vocal sound.
You are worthy. We crown you. You are worthy. We crown you, Lord of all. And worthy is the Lamb who was slain and seated on the throne. There's no one like you, God.
All right, so as a lead vocal, I love doing that. Just letting those two compressors on this chain work together a bit. A lot of times I don't even bother with this EQ. You can. I don't necessarily think that it's needed on this one right now, so we'll just move on and actually add in another insert for this vocal. So on our second slot, what I like to do is use our dynamic EQ. So on band 1, you can take this, let's set our attack at about 20 milliseconds, leave the release at around 300, that's fine. And then our gain is going to be the low pass at the 12 dB octave, and let's set that up at around 250, 300, somewhere in there on a 2-to-1 ratio. And now let's take the second band, move it up to around 2K, 3K, somewhere in there. Drop it a few dB. This is my starting point, and we're gonna adjust from here, but this is the idea. Take our attack, about 20 milliseconds as well. And what that's going to do is bring down those harsh points whenever she starts getting a little too into it, or if she like moves close to the mic, you know, the proximity effect there, and the low end starts building up, it'll turn that down a little bit at those times. And this is a subtle thing as well. This is just helping balance along the way.
You are worthy. We crown you. You are worthy. We crown you, Lord of all. And worthy is the Lamb who was slain and seated on the throne. There's no one like you, God. The elders, creatures.
So the point of this is to catch those different syllables or vowel sounds along the way. So you can see the elders, where it's the, you know, that kind of lower, you know, more chest voice is coming out, the elders. And then those vowel sounds are taking over and they can be a little more harsh. So you'll see these moving at different times. And now you can imagine those different things are hitting the compressor, each triggering them. And while that's good because it keeps the overall level even and tame, this can help the tonal balance as it changes and shifts between the songs, the mic technique, the sounds that are the words being spoken. It just helps add that little bit of extra evenness throughout the performance. So right now, on this day of whatever year it is, this is how I've been running my lead vocals for quite some time. A lot of times background vocals, I don't really overthink them quite so much. I just use an EQ, I use a de-esser, the EQ, and then a lot of times just this combo PSC and LA2A compressor, exactly as you saw here, but then don't add these other inserts. That's how I run my background vocals, and then the lead vocals, I'll add in this vintage channel and the dynamic EQ exactly as you've seen here. So now, for this video, I'm going to leave our background vocal pretty simple. We're just going to keep it there. But what I want to do is actually jump over to our vocal bus and show you some of the fancier stuff we do on that. So what I like to do is have our 1176 compressor on my bus at the same attack and release at about 3 and 7 o'clock, or 3 and all the way over to 7 with a ratio at 4. And then I'll turn on this exciter. We're going to leave it at the stock settings and then just mix in the wet signal on the wet and dry knob. And then I had this pitch, this dual pitch setup that is in my reverb or in my effects settings as well. So you can screenshot that here if you want. The settings are also in the description. So let's listen to what this stuff is doing on the bus.
All the elders, creatures bow, giving praise to him alone. Oh, there's no one like the Lord. There's no one like you. Just tell him there's no one like you. You are worthy. We crown you. You are worthy. We crown you, Lord of all. And worthy is the Lamb who was slain and seated on the throne. There's no one like you, God. The elders, creatures bow, giving praise to him and him alone.
This is one where you have to be subtle with it, but what it does is adds a little bit of grit or a little bit of extra, you know, shine or aggression on that top end of the vocal. It just helps it cut through everything else a bit more. So let's hear that on and off and then move on.
You are worthy. We crown you. You are worthy. We crown you, Lord of all. And worthy is the Lamb.
Okay, again, it's subtle, but it's there. So I also, on this bus, I like to use the Pultec and give a bit of a top end boost on the vocals. Again, keeping it subtle. We're not fixing major issues here. We're just kind of collectively doing a bit of work. So let's take this high boost at about 10K or 12. We'll move it around and see what sounds good.
You are worthy. We crown you, you are worthy. We crown you, Lord of all. And worthy is the Lamb who was slain and seated on the throne. There's no
All right, we'll go ahead and bring in the dual
like you,
pitch.
God. The elders, creatures bow, giving praise to him and him alone. There's no one like the Lord. And worthy is the Lamb who was slain and seated on the throne. There's no one like the Lord.
All right, I'll say it over and over. These bus vocal effects especially, you have to be very subtle. You need to know what you're adding and why you're adding it. To me, all of these are just adding a bit more life to what is already there. Our heavy lifting, our heavy processing is happening on the channel level. And then from our buses, we're just adding in some extra shine, a little bit of, three-dimensionalness, nothing crazy. So now, let's finally add in our delay, our vocal delay in. So on here, what I've done, if we go to our bus here, I like this vintage tape delay with the drive pretty well cranked up. The high shelf and low shelf are really doing a lot of work. I mean, it's all the way down to 2K and up over 100. But then I'll run this vintage plate reverb. We'll keep it around 2 seconds there for now. And at a 30% mix. And I didn't say a second ago, my apologies, on our vocal bus, I'm adjusting this pitch by using the mix knob on the effect itself. So back over to our delay. So our delay is going to be fed, on the bus. It's going to go into the delay unit here. That is going to be EQ'd out and then into this other reverb to just smooth it out some. We're not doing a ton of work or adding much length necessarily. It just needs to really smooth out those vocal repeats so it's not so in your face necessarily. So we'll see what it sounds like straight out of the gate.
You are worthy. We crown you, you are worthy. We crown you, Lord of all.
Okay, and I just set up the tap delay, 4-hour delay on this button here. So what you want to do for that is you can go to your view menu, select which button you want to adjust. Under function, go to effects parameter, find your effects processor, tape delay, and then select time. And now I can adjust the time of that delay here on the top level. So let's do that again and tap it in so that it's not so chaotic.
You are worthy. We crown you, you are worthy. We crown you, Lord of all. And worthy is the Lamb who was slain and seated on the throne. There's no one like you, God.
So one thing about this, if you notice, that gets out of hand pretty quick, and that is where my bus and DCA workflow comes in handy. So I'm actually going to drop this down a good 10 dB so that I can keep these faders more even on the DCA level and have a little bit more nuanced control there.
You are worthy. We crown you, you are worthy. We crown you, Lord of all. And worthy is the Lamb who was slain.
All right, let's do one thing. I'm going to take this effects mix and jump it up to about 35%. That's getting pretty in the nitty-gritty, but I think it will help just a bit. All right, let's hear all of this in context with the rest of the band.
You
All right, so now that is our mix with just our channels. So we will bring in our rooms now using just the basic setup that we had before. I'm not going to add or do anything different. These are just the room mics really with a big low cut on them. So you can imagine this is like your live stream that where you're not sending these back into the house PA, but you're sending these over to your live stream mix.
You are worthy. We crown you. You are worthy. We crown you Lord of all. And worthy is the Lamb who was slain and seated on the throne. There's no one like you, God. The elders, creatures bow, giving praise to Him and Him alone. There's no one like the Lord. And worthy is the Lamb who was slain and seated on the throne. There's no one like the Lord. All the elders, creatures bow, giving praise to Him and Him alone. There's no one like the Lord. There's no one like you.
Okay, so that is our mix using the different plugins that we have available, bussing them together using different effects, getting a little bit more creative. I mean, even still, like you notice here, we still have 4 effect slots open. We could do more. You know, if you want to have a lot of fun with it, you could start doing different vocal chains using your extra processors here. You can use different processors for your live stream mix, for your house mix. For this video, I think we're good to go. I'm pretty happy with that. There's always room for improvement. I'm sure I'll have updates down the road of different things that I'm doing on the wing, but for now, today, on this date, this is the mix I would build. So I hope this has been helpful. Presets, all of that in the description below. Now let's just run down this mix for a bit. We'll just mix different parts and see how it sounds.
Elders, creatures bow, giving praise to Him and Him alone. There's no one like the Lord. And there is one on the throne. Jesus, holy. Yes, you are. He is worthy of praise, honor, and glory. And worthy is the Lamb who was slain and seated
Thanks for hanging out in this long video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.